Yo, what's good, Knicks Nation? Welcome back for another Game of the Week preview. Of course, we got to preview the game between the Knicks and the Raptors, okay? They're going to be up in Toronto Monday night, facing some friendly faces. One, RJ Barrett. I don't know where Emmanuel quickly is, but don't worry. We got my guy, Will Lou, on the other side to help break this down. He has his own show called Hello and Welcome, covering the Toronto Raptors from many different angles. So make sure to stay locked in. Hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. And make sure to support our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code KFTV to get up to $1,000 instant bonus cash and free pick. Let's get into this, man. Will, how you doing, man? It's 10 a.m. on a Sunday. How are you feeling today?
What's going on, man? I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, all things considered, Raptors in a rebuilding season right now.
Mm.
Knicks, though, it's always easy to root for the Knicks when you got a fan favorite like OG. That's actually number one as a Raptor fan from afar, seeing what you guys are doing in New York. It's like all the Knicks fans are starting to wake up to like how much there is with OG content in terms of all the little humorous stuff that he likes to do. Also on the court, it's like, come on, man, how could you not appreciate like what he does as a primarily 3-and-D, but sometimes more than that. I saw him drop. Did he drop 40? Like that's pretty crazy,
He
man.
did
I'm happy
drop
for OG,
40.
man.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
did drop 40 against the Nuggets. He's showing a little bit more offensive creativity. Pretty like standard. It's like nothing too crazy, like watching
yeah,
him
yeah.
play, but it's like simple step backs, driving to the lanes, getting a lot of dunks this year, which is just
Yeah.
insane. But OG's been stepping up. We just got Precious back too, so another
Right.
Toronto guy, and he's been very big for us in key moments from last season. Even coming back, you're starting to see that versatility defensively from him. So we're happy to have those guys. But I got to ask you, man, from an outsider and being, a division foe, what have you been thinking about the Knicks so far after the trades and the start of the season?
Yeah, I mean, you guys obviously were one of the big topics of conversation around basketball. When you make the trade for Karl Anthony Towns at the eve of the season, and you also get Mikal Bridges to start for, I guess, the off season too. It's just like it's there's gonna be a lot of focus on you guys. And honestly, like I thought you guys would be the second best team in the Eastern Conference. Maybe nobody saw Cleveland doing what they're doing right now. I'm not gonna lie to you, as are you afraid of Cleveland? Because even to me, I'm watching them games, like, okay, like Evan Mobley just had a 40 piece. They beat the Charlotte Hornets. It's like, okay, cool. Like something I still got to see it in the playoffs, but it seems at least regular season wise, they seem to be like a really, really good team. And so, probably I think you guys end up in third more than anything else. I think for the Knicks, like, I mean, the offense right now is just humming. Like every time I watch the Knicks, you guys have like 130 points. You guys are number one in the league right now in offense. I feel like the everything with Cat, like I know there's like a lot of like he doesn't have a great reputation, it feels like, maybe league wide, but like offensively, like how could you slander Cat, man? At worst, that's the third best like offensive center in the NBA. And this year with Embiid not even healthy, like he's a tremendous add to what you guys are doing. I mean, the starting five, like, I just checked, like everybody's averaging between 14 and 25 points. Like that's kind of like absurd, really. I mean, defensively, I think there's got to be a higher level. I think maybe some of that improves when you guys are able to sort of play around with the matchups and actually have more size in the middle with like Mitchell Robinson and stuff. I see like last game you guys lost to Detroit, you know, uh, Jericho Sims
Don't get me
starting.
this.
It's like,
That was a disgusting game
come
just to
on,
even
you guys
watch.
are too good of a team to start Jericho Sims again. I mean, it's not the old Knicks anymore, But yeah, you guys look good, and honestly, the ball movement's a lot better too. That's the thing. I
For
always
sure.
thought that the previous years when Raptors played the Knicks, I was like, okay, Randall and Brunson, like it was going to be a little bit more predictable, right? It's going to be, a lot of pick and roll, and then Randall's going to do like the ISO jab step stuff, and probably like he'll try to shoot a lot of threes early in the game. If he's hitting, he'll do a lot more of that over the course of the game. But it felt like relatively predictable. Right now, I feel like the ball movement for you guys is like a lot better than what I've seen in previous years. So, I mean, honestly, things look really good with the Knicks, man. I'm sure you guys know that.
For sure, and yeah, everything that you talked about, you're spot on. I mean, the offense this year is just much more clean, a lot more facilitating. I mean, we're way better in assists this year than it ever been under
Yeah.
Tibbs' era. I mean, the way that they're able to move the ball around, you talk about it. I mean, and it helps with Cat, who's able to work the high post and just knows how to find cutters as well. I mean,
Mm,
this team is averaging like 28 assists right now, which is just
yeah.
absurd. This is a team that was like on the lower end of the 20s last year and the years past with Tibbs. And you're also right in the sense of like you have no idea who can go off. I mean, we
Yeah.
were talking about, we were talking just early in the show. OG getting 40 points. You can have Cat getting 30. Bridges got 31 right now. One night you got Brunson getting 30. It's like there's just too many guys to just say, all right, we're gonna like focus on this. But definitely when you have, we didn't have Cat last night, and it showed how
Mhm.
much he is, how important he is to this team. And on post game last night, I said this starting five, it's the team is too top heavy that if you miss any one of these guys, there's little margin for error. And for Cat, you know, defensively last night, as you also mentioned, Knicks are not great at are great at that. I'm expecting it to get better over the course of the season, especially with Bridges. He's had an up and down start so far. But when you see last night, when you don't even have Cat to punish defenses and get guys tired, it's even easier for opponents to just hone in on the Knicks and just understand, okay, we know it's going to be the Brunson show. Is
Mhm.
OG going to go off tonight? Is Bridges going to go off tonight? And we didn't get that really last night against the Pistons. And that's why you see Knicks losing a close one and just very little margin for error when you're missing one of those starting five. But as you talked about, man, offense is looking great. I just want the defense to look better.
Yeah.
But even with how they've looked great, I'm still curious because yeah, you talked about Knicks being potentially third. No one's expecting Cleveland to come out the gate so hot. And honestly, I'm with you, man. Like
I'm
I'm
not
watching
buying it.
this
I'm
team.
sorry.
I'm just watching this team, and I'm like, they're really good, like regular season wise.
Yeah.
I'm just like, where? Because you need to have a little bit of that like tenacious, like that grit. And like, I'm
Mhm.
not saying like Boston like flaunts that, like, but they could turn it up when need be. Like
Oh
we
yeah.
saw that in the postseason.
Yep.
But like for Cleveland, they're very much a finesse team. I'm still not intimidated by them. Knicks
Mhm.
will probably be third the way that Cleveland's going. It just seems like they're gunning to win every single game
Yep.
this regular season. So I wouldn't be surprised. And then Orlando, they made a good jump, but now you have both those guys dealing with
Yeah.
oblique injuries,
Exactly.
which is just insane. But I do agree with you to see the Knicks being third in the East at this point, the way that everything's unfolding, if all teams stay healthy. Where do you think the team ranks like league wide though? Like the West is stacked. So like where do you think the Knicks are
Yeah.
amongst everybody else?
The West is nasty. I mean, like the Raptors right now are in a homestand with a lot of Western Conference teams coming in. So like the last couple of teams coming in are like OKC, and they just
Hmm.
like destroyed the Raptors. I mean, OKC's got like extra motivation to play against the Raps because like somehow like three or four of their players are like Canadian or like are like they got like Canadian girlfriends or something. Like it's crazy. Even
Oh,
Isaiah
look at
Joe was,
that.
bro. Isaiah Joe was trying to pop off. I was like, what? I've watched a lot of OKC games. I've never seen Isaiah Joe so aggressive. And that comes to turn out that his girlfriend's from Toronto. I was like, okay, yeah, that
Mm.
makes sense. Like he got friends and family in the crowd too, Shea, Lou Dort, those kind of guys. But they just came in and crushed us, man. And honestly, like Hartenstein looked really good in that one too. Like
Mm.
I feel like he brought a lot of size and just like balance to their defense. And just in general, like it was kind of no contest. It was actually kind of sad watching that game. But they were really impressive. And then the next night, it was Dallas with Luca and Kyrie, and those guys were just like, I mean, honestly, kind of an average game for them, but it's an average game for them is like spectacular. Like those are the two top teams for me in the Western Conference in terms of the depth, in terms of the star power. Um, Honestly, like as a for the Knicks, like to match that level, you got to be elite on both ends of the floor. Like it's not enough to just be elite offensively. I think the Knicks are legitimately elite offensively. Like that's not fake. That's not like hot shooting or anything like that, but defensively, you guys got to find a higher gear. And to your point about them being top heavy, like I agree. Like I think you guys should have the wing defenders on paper to be better than this. Like obviously, Josh Hart can really guard. OG for me is like probably the best wing defender in the entire
Yeah,
NBA.
for sure.
Uh, there used to be like a little debate between like Raptor fans and Knicks or and Suns fans of like who's the better 3-and-D wing between him and Mikal Bridges. Like it's not close. You see them on the same team. It's like OG clearly has the versatility. I mean, I'm sure you guys when you guys played Denver, like did OG spend some time guarding Jokic at times? Like
Yeah.
he's got like crazy like you were talking about Jokic, man, and a wing guarding Jokic. Which other wing can guard Jokic like that? Um, but I feel like without sort of like that sort of like rim protection to really ultimately erase like all the mistakes at the back there, it's just a little hard to be solid. Like if you guys were able to get Mitchell Robinson back or even trade for another center who can really protect the rim, like that's when I feel like you guys would go to another level. But yeah, as of right now, I probably still have OKC and Dallas over you guys minimum.
No, and that makes sense. Look, defensively, this team still got a lot to clean up. I mean, as of right now, throughout the league, the Knicks rank 18th defensively, and
Yeah.
we still, there's still, even though we've beaten the Nuggets, it was a good win against the Orlando Magic too. We
Mhm.
did lose to Boston. That has really like honestly, you remove that Boston game, the Knicks defense pops up a little bit more. But
Okay.
to be honest, like we're still looking for like true like competition that we compete against to say, all right, this is where we really stand. So games like OKC, which is going to happen next month, right? Um, those are games that I'm looking forward to because I think then we'll have a clear idea of like what is needed. And hopefully Mitch, who's on track supposedly to be coming back in January, if he's back and you switch him and Cat or you have both of them on the floor at the same time, I'm looking to see how that defense works out. But definitely want to
Mhm.
get Mitchell Robinson back because of somebody his defensive versatility and being able to guard the pick and roll and stuff of that nature, even just to being a perimeter deterrent, like that's just going to change everything. Even getting Precious back, man. And I know
Yeah,
like
yeah.
like Precious, I know a lot of Raptors fans are like up and down about him, but the
That's because
defensive
Precious
versatility
while
that
up
he
and down, man.
the defensive versatility he gives us right
Oh
now,
yeah,
and not even
yeah.
being a rim protector, but the
Mhm.
defense, like when he came back against the Hornets, and it was McBride, Precious, and then you had Hart, OG, and Bridges, that was shut down. Like no
Oh yeah.
Hornets, obviously it's not even a good team. You didn't have LaMelo Ball,
Sure,
you didn't have
whatever. Yeah.
Bridges, but still, like you can kind of get the idea of what that defense could look like. So Knicks still got a lot of work going on, man. Hoping to get guys back. I don't know how much they can actually trade for. Like I see people talk about trading Precious and Mitch. And I'm like, unless you're
Eh,
getting like somebody great in return for
yeah.
that, I'm
Yeah.
like, it doesn't even make sense to do that. So still a lot of TBD for the team. But I got to talk to you about your Raptors, man, because
Let's go.
I am very fascinated about this team. They're a young rebuilding team. I
Hmm.
really want to see what Quick was going to do. I know he's been injured this year, which stinks, man.
Yeah.
And like had a lot of hope for Emmanuel quickly. A lot of stock still do.
Hmm.
Not saying that anything has changed. It's just injury. Obviously, still waiting for him to come back and see what he could do this season. And after how he played after getting traded last year, like the assist numbers were up, the scoring was up. What's the you talk about being a rebuilding team, but what was the goal entering this season for for your Toronto team?
So basically, there's like two main goals. Number one is like we need to see the young players on this team who will be part of the future to like take a step up and level up. And to varying degrees, we've seen that from pretty much everybody. Like no one's like taken a step back or anything like that, which has been really nice. The other thing is just get a top pick, man. This draft class is really talented, and the Raptors, as much as like they have a lot of like they have some pretty good young talent as of right now, and they're starting to form an identity and all that kind of stuff, which is cool. But I do feel like they still need more talent with this group, and Toronto is not a team that's like gonna be signing a lot of like star players in free agency. Like there's not gonna be like Jalen Brunson available in free agency, and we go out there and sign him. You know what I mean? Like that's just
Mhm.
not how the Raptors kind of go about these things. They're basically like a draft and develop type of team, and so, yeah, those are the two main goals. On that front, like, like a lot of these guys are taking a step up. Like, actually, as a Knicks fan, I would love to ask you why RJ's so up and down sometimes because it feels like the highs are really good. Like, I,
Oh man,
this is
this
funny because
is
we're having combos about OG and Precious, and I'm like, yeah, man, I've seen some of this stuff. Like, it's really cool. Like, I like I see it more unbiased now that they're no longer on my team. I'm like, okay, I see the really good and the really bad or whatever.
yeah.
Honestly, there's not even anything really bad with OG. He's actually like a really, really great player.
He's mostly positive.
Precious is like a bit of a wild card, but as long as you get Precious to play his role and like his roles, like the physicality, the rebounding, push it on the break, not trying to do too much off. Like Precious used to try to be an ISO player in Toronto, which was crazy because it's like,
Oh,
that's not you.
what?
No, I'm not kidding. He used to try to do some Giannis type of plays. I was like, dude, like this. It was a reflection of the fact that Toronto didn't really have that many other creators around him, so he felt the liberties to do that. But I think with RJ, like we've seen some like really good highs with RJ this season, for example. Like I think he's already got 6 30-point games, which is like pretty great. For a while there, he was averaging like over 30 a game at home. But then there's also like when he's not on, it feels like he's like just completely off. Like I don't know. As a Knicks fan, I would love for you to explain why RJ feels like so crazy up and down. Because sometimes he's an all-star, sometimes I'm like, you're kind of a negative on the floor. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, man. It's just a lot of that conversation was also centered around having Julius, and they both,
Okay.
worked in
Yeah.
that same space here. So I don't know what it's like with Scottie as well. Like I know Scottie, like one of his goals is like to work on his 3-point shooting. I know he's improved. I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily drastically improved this season. I know he's also working his way back in. He's got the goggles on, and I
Mm-hmm.
and I know all of that. But for RJ, man, like watching him play, it's just that's just kind of how it's been. It's like you could guarantee the same thing every year. It's like RJ would have a slow start at the beginning of the season, ramp up in November, get injured, then come back in December, and then he has to work his way back up again. And then January, February, he's like, okay, here we go. And then you get the up and down nature of RJ. And I feel like part of that game is one, like if he doesn't have that shot going around the rim, then he starts to force everything.
Mm,
Or
okay.
and when he has to force starting to shoot threes and just really try to get in a rhythm that way, it's not his forte at all. He's not a three-point shooter. He's not a knockdown specialist outside of that one season during the COVID year and where he looked awesome. And I feel like
Mm,
he stayed to like that bag to help Julius, where it's like you saw the snake dribble, get to the middle, pull up from there with a floater, get downhill, or shoot the three. I think sometimes he tries to do a little bit more than what he's capable of doing. And then because of that, it can be a roller coaster ride, man. I still think he's trying to figure out what his game is to like what he can like rely on. But
mm,
I can tell you, if he's not getting downhill and finish around the rim, it's
yeah.
going to be a roller coaster. I'm sure that's what you're experiencing with RJ right now.
I mean, that's what it feels like. It's like the whole game is predicated on him getting to the basket. Like he is really good at getting to the basket. Like I think the Raptors might have done a couple other things to maybe help him get downhill to the basket. Certainly, he's got the ball more than he did in New York because there's again less creators around. But like I think the last time I looked, he was like third in the NBA in terms of how many shots per game he was taking at the rim,
Mm.
which for a guard is like crazy good. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like there's certain teams like the last couple games, OKC had a really quiet game. Well, they had Hardenstein back there, and they also had like great wing defenders to like stop him from getting downhill. And then when he couldn't get downhill, it's like, okay, where's the defense at? Where's the shooting at? Where's the playmaking at? Those kind of things felt like it wasn't quite there. But then again, there's games like when they played the Pacers, they beaten the Pacers twice. I mean, whatever. The Pacers are kind of a joke right now. They're really terrible. But like, I mean, the only reason you guys lost to the Pacers last year was because you guys were so banged up. But like, still, like the Pacers, when they don't obviously play much defense, RJ was like dominating that team and
Hmm.
playmaking as well. So I feel like for a young player like that, like it's great that he can really get downhill. Like it's undeniably great, but I would love for the secondary skills for him to come up because I just don't want it to like vary as much. It's harder for him to sort of be one of like the main primary guys if he's like not consistently giving you at least baseline level of like defense, a baseline level of like outside shooting. Because obviously there's gonna be some teams that could take away the rim. But then again, the highs have been really good with RJ. Like some of the games, man, he's already set career highs in assists. I mean, he's not a career high in points yet, but I think coming to Toronto, I think he's played like 50 plus games now coming to Toronto. He's like over 22 a game, and he's
Mm.
shooting like 52% from the field, which is pretty good. Like even
That is good.
efficiency's been solid. You know what I mean? It's just like I'm starting to see like the second layer of his game that needs more work. But I mean, otherwise, yeah, Raptors have been solid. You know what I mean? Like Scottie, I think since coming back from the injury, he's kind of playing point forward for them, basically averaging a triple double with that sort of role. Maybe offensively at times, he feels like he's not as aggressive as a scorer, but like still, ultimately, he's still giving you like basically a 20-point triple double. And then Grady Dick, man, Grady Dick's been the surprise of this season. This guy is just gunning every single game. Like last game, he led the team in shot attempts, even with RJ and Scottie back, and he had the most points too with 27. So
Wow.
that's been pretty common for Grady this year. Yeah.
That's impressive. Shout out to Knicks Nation for tuning in for another Game of the Week preview with me on the other side is my guy, Will Lou. You can catch him over Hello and Welcome, a Toronto's Raptors podcast. Make sure to go check him out and go support his new channel. He's the host and creator of it. So make sure to go support and tap in, especially if you love the NBA like we all do. Hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and support our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code KFTV. The last thing I want to say on RJ before I keep diving in, just like
Yeah.
the absence of Quick and like how that's impacted the team, because I just need to know. The
Sure.
thing about RJ is that he doesn't have a dribble package, right? And you talk like because of that, that's why he's like very limited what he can do, right? And it feels like
Okay.
it's always like north and south,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's if he doesn't have that like or just like some creation, like I think the biggest thing is the mid range. Like if he had a true mid range game, then it would open up a little bit more.
Okay.
I feel like that's the biggest thing that he needs and figuring out how to do that. But he's just also so ball dominant that's like, what can you do outside of it? Has that been the same too, or has that changed?
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily describe RJ as ball dominant in Toronto, but that's
Oh
because
wow.
like nobody in Toronto is like ball dominant. Like this is a team that's like really since Darko Rajakovic took over last year. I mean, the whatever the wins aren't there, but like they're certainly like making an emphasis to sort of share the ball. So like they're consistently like at the top five in the NBA in terms of assists and stuff like that. Doesn't necessarily mean the offense is good. It just means that like they're always sharing the ball. I think with RJ, like I agree with the secondary skills, right? Like for example, like for most slashers, like RJ is like obviously having a mid range to counter is like a pretty effective tool. That's like you know just that's just like how basketball is played. But also at the same time, like I think with the league moving away from mid range, the Raptors are certainly one of those teams that's like basically we don't want you to shoot mid range. Like
Mm.
it's harder for him to sort of counter against that. His catch and shoot threes have actually been okay. Like I wouldn't necessarily say he's great at them, but he's also not like a net night like negative. It's not like he's gonna shoot you out of a game by missing a whole bunch of threes. Um, I think for me, it's just like I want the defense to at a higher level, man. And I feel like sometimes it's just like a lack of focus. Like RJ, it's not like he's got like what I mean, some sort of physical limitation keeping him from playing defense on a higher level. I just feel like his concentration level is not always the highest on that end. I could feel like his priority is certainly on the offense, which is cool. Like again, because RJ's like absolutely the X factor. I know you're gonna ask me the X factor later. It's like basically the Raptors this season are 5-2 when RJ scores 29 or more,
Mm.
and they're 2-15 when he doesn't.
Oof.
So like it's
That's
that
a drop
part of
off.
his offense is irreplaceable. But at the same time, it's like you got to be able to sort of like at least provide other things when the offense isn't like supernova. But yeah, he's an interesting player though. I mean, I think more than anything else, like he's certainly taken a lot of pride in coming back to Toronto. I think he loved New York too, but I think just him coming home is like a different feeling. He's got like
For
friends and
sure.
family at every single game. And yeah, when he's on, especially at home, like it really does feel like very special watching him because he goes to the basket so well. I just would love to see like his game round out a little bit, you know what I mean? But I mean that's like the same with like it's basically the Raptors have no perfect players, you know what I mean? Like all these guys you can nitpick small things at their game. I just want to ask you about RJ because I'm sure you've had a million combos about RJ on your show.
Oh my God. It was
Yeah,
always I mean, it was split almost 50-50, believers,
yeah,
non-believers, and then
sure,
it's
yeah,
all in between. Let's talk about quickly though, because I know he's only played what, like 3-4 games this season.
yeah,
Um,
barely, yeah,
what like when is he expected to come back? Like, what is he dealing with now? 'Cause
bro,
is it
it's
like
tough.
a different injury now, or is it the same injury?
Different injuries. So start of the season he misses most of training camp. He had I think something issue with his thumb. Then he was able to make the opening night roster, which is great. But then there was a play where he went for an up fake, and then Darius Garland jumped on him, and so he
Mm.
like hurt his back or something. I forget what the exact injury was, but he had to leave the game at halftime because he got landed on. He comes back from that, plays 2 games, but then suffered a partial tear in his left elbow. So right now he's like probably still a ways away. Like last time I was at practice, for example, like he's not even going through contact. He's kind of just like shooting on his own a little bit, mostly again preventing himself from even using the left hand. So like that's got to recover. It doesn't seem like surgery's in the works, which is good, but yeah, realistically, it's been a third of the season now, and like he hasn't really featured much, which is unfortunate because I thought IQ would be a really big part of this. Like, I mean, as much as a rebuilding team, as you know, with a rebuilding team, it's not just like let's look ahead to next year's draft right away. It's also like, okay, hold up, let's see like what do we actually have right here, so we know what kind of pieces to add here. With IQ, it's like I want to see how his balance is with IQ with RJ and then also with Scottie. You know what I mean? And that more than anything else would kind of dictate the future. But we haven't been able to see that as a Raptor fan this year. Last year when RJ was when IQ was here, like I thought his playmaking was really good. Certainly a really good 3-point shooter. I think those things were pretty dynamic. Late game scenarios, I felt like there was another guy you can kind of trust a little bit. Although
Hmm.
I wouldn't necessarily say he's a closer, but still a guy who can get you shots. That's something where like Scottie can get you like those in between buckets at the end of the game, like putbacks, like transition, cuts, all that kind of stuff. But one-on-one basket making for him is just like not something he does a lot of. I feel like IQ had more of that skill set. Um, but again, like this year we just haven't seen him. So it's weird because his backups are like Davion Mitchell and Jamal Shed, who's a rookie.
Mm.
Those guys are both like all out defensive players who give you very little offensively. And so like most nights the Raptors get badly outscored at the point guard position, which is part of I think why like their late game offense, the Raptors. Like even if the Knicks, for example, find themselves down late games, I feel like there's still a really good chance for the Raptors to blow late games just because they're getting very little production from their point guard offensively.
Is it like so? And I feel like it's not that I feel it is. The point
Mhm.
guard position is so important because that's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
maestro, that's your conductor. And it seemed like looking from afar, quickly was really getting into that role very well with the Raptors last season. So was that the case? Like I know you talked about his playmaking and stuff of that nature. Like, did you find it to be like a good steady hand last season, or did you still see the ups and downs from him? And were you just looking for him to iron that out this year?
Honestly, I was kind of looking. It's a little bit similar to the RJ situation. Like I wanted to see like if he's not scoring, like what else can he sort of provide? Now I think the playmaking was there. I think defensively the reputation was pretty strong coming in New York. Like maybe he was like a good help defender. I feel like for me, I still have concerns about his on-ball defense. He is obviously a little skinnier and stuff like that. So like, I would love to see sort of how he would have improved on the defensive end here in Toronto because the Raptors do need a lot of help on that front. They're pretty terrible defensively. Uh, but yeah, I mean, playmaking wise. I think it was solid. Like he was certainly a really good pick and roll player. So like when he was able to play with Jakob Poeltl, which hasn't happened much either because Jakob was injured for the second half of last season when
Mhm.
IQ was healthy, and now Jakob's healthy and IQ's out. But like yeah, when they played pick and roll, I really didn't have any concerns. I felt like he was a pretty good pick and roll player. Just taking care of the ball and that kind of stuff. He's not like he's a high turnover guy for me. Uh, yeah, I mean, it's weird because also Toronto really, really wants to make Scottie the point guard as well. So he's kind of like he's your point guard in name, and maybe he guards the other team's point guard, but he's basically like kind of an off guard
Mm.
in Toronto, which I think is like not that dissimilar in New York, where obviously he played a lot with Brunson. So
Yeah, and that's like what quick. I mean, good off ball, like good second creator, especially where though what was it 2 seasons ago where we were facing against Miami. Like he didn't
mhm,
step up in the playoffs where we needed him the most, and that was the thing. It's like you had this
yeah,
great career. You were second. You should I think he should have won six man of the year that year over Brogdon, just because of how instrumental he was for keeping the Knicks and
oh yeah,
like in the
that's when he
playoff
had 40
standings.
against the Celtics, right?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Or it was like 38. It was 30. It was like 38. He got close
Okay.
to
Yeah.
40. So it's like
Sure.
it
Yeah.
was close enough. But it was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and I was there for that game. I was there for that double OT game. And it was
That
like,
was crazy.
yo, you like this guy is so instrumental. Like this is what your
Yeah.
six man is. Like you need
hmm
somebody to
hmm
come off the bench who can start in these spot minutes. I'm like, he should be winning. But where it mattered most in the postseason, which is part of the reason why he didn't get a contract extension, part
Yeah.
of the reason why they were comfortable trading him and RJ for OG and Anunoby is because he still needed to work on being that guy in the like that reliable, steady hand, right? And I'm just like from afar, I was looking forward to watching that this year to see
hmm
what leap does he take as that point guard because I always believed that if it wasn't for if Brunson wasn't here, definitely let quickly do that because he's earned every single year to be that trusted guy. So looking forward to see what happens when he comes back. Last few things before we go into this matchup. Just curious, like I'm looking at the starting rotation for the depth chart, man. And I know you don't got quickly,
So
but Scottie Barnes is listed as your point guard. You got
yep.
Grady Dick, the shooting guard. You got RJ, small forward. Agbaji as the point power forward, and obviously Proto as the center. What is
hmm
that even like? What's going on here, man? I don't even know
Oh
where the
yeah.
playmaking's coming from at this. I know you say Scotty is like
hmm
averaging essentially like a triple double, but it's like, is he really like that guy that you can rely on consistently? Like this starting rotation just seems a little, I don't know, cluttered.
I mean, this is the Raptors this year. Like they've had like a number of different starting lineups, and I think that's sort of like changed a lot of players' roles. Like at the start of the season, Scotty was clearly number one, but then he got hurt. He got like Jokic elbowed him in the head, and he got like an orbital bone fracture, so that knocked him out for like 3 weeks. Then it became like RJ was kind of like your number one guy. They were running a lot of pick and rolls. Honestly, they were actually doing okay in that stretch. They just like they really struggled in crunch time, but over the balance of the game, they were actually pretty good. Grady has sort of consistently been like the number two option in all of this. And the Raptors do a really good job of getting him off ball. He's super aggressive as well. Like that guy has no shame whatsoever. He is shooting that thing. He's like super aggressive. It's actually really fun to watch as a Raptor fan. Um, but then yeah, then since Scotty's come back, that's sort of knocked RJ kind of to a number two role. Scotty's sort of been the primary guy. The thing to know with the Raptors is like they just don't play like pretty much like most other teams in the NBA. Like they're not like give it to one guy, pick and roll, and then like see what advantages filter there from there. Like they really do play a team system oriented basketball. Honestly,
Mm.
when you watch Scotty, a lot of times you're like you walk away, it's like, okay, he certainly made a lot of great passes, certainly is really engaged on the defensive end, certainly has a lot of things going for him, but it's like in the most aggressive way that you want for a star player, it's like he's not like hunting for his shots. He's not like hitting the advantage over and over and over again with his own scoring until teams break and try to like double or triple team him, and then he starts passing. Like he's certainly pass first, kind of always, no matter what.
Interesting.
They play a lot through the post as well. Like you'll see they'll give the ball to Jakob, they'll give the ball to Kelly Olynyk, who's come back from injury. Like they'll play a lot through the post. They love to get their guys off ball. Obviously, they love playing in transition. Every team in the NBA loves playing transition, but they're a young team. They certainly get on transition. But yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of like how they generate this sort of offense is sort of in a more team concept than
Mhm.
anything else. But they've also had like 2 or 3 different additions of the team already this year just due to injuries.
Yeah, it's just fascinating, man. Just because like I look at Scotty and it's like I get why you put him at like that one position to be that
Mhm.
guy, but it's just so fascinating that a lot of people, especially around the league, are like this is a guy that's gonna like be that true alpha, and it sounds like he's not like becoming that true alpha in the sense that where you need him to be.
Well, I mean, the thing is like it depends on sort of like what style of like alpha player you want in terms of like he's not like a Shea or like a Luca. Those type of guys who like can get buckets whenever they want, and then obviously when teams sort of like really key on those guys, even Brunson is the same way. It's like they can score on anybody, and then eventually teams are gonna have to like compromise and sell out and double team and trap or whatever, and then they're able to get other guys involved and all that kind of stuff. But like ultimately they can get a shot off of on anybody. Like Scotty's just not that type of aggressive scorer, but he does everything else really well. Like basically, actually, when you look at the Raptors this whole season, like the subplots are like, okay, can they get RJ up to a more efficient level, get him some secondary skills? Can Grady Dick be a starting level player? And right now, he's certainly been popping off. That's been great. But the big key thing to know with the Raptors is like the whole organization is like trying to prioritize Scotty as much as possible, and they are trying to will him into becoming one of these like true all-out superstars. And he has so many other skills, like basically across the board. Defensively, he's really good. You know, he's great in transition. He rebounds the ball really well. He's got really good vision. He really does have really good vision. Like I have no issues with him playing point forward. It's great. And he's emerging and he's trying to improve his 3-point shot. Like there's one game I asked Darko recently, like Scotty's basically taking like 7 threes a game. Are you cool with that? And he's like, I'm not cool with that. I want it to be even more. Like he wants
Mm.
Scotty to be shooting like 10 threes a game, which is kind of crazy because he's not really that efficient of a 3-point shooter.
Hmm.
Clearly, they're trying to develop. The thing is, like, in terms of just that one on one scoring, like, you're just not seeing that, the same way that you see with other guys. And whether that can be developed or whether the Raptors can get enough scores around him to sort of use his playmaking and then sort of limit his own scoring, like, that's kind of the question. But like I guess that is the project. That is sort of the developmental aspect. And it's not like he can't get 30. Like he gets 30. Like it's fine. Like he'll probably end up most games between 20 and basically between 20 and 25 points. Like he kind of walks into that just based on how skilled he is. He scores in a variety of ways, but that one-on-one scoring, that's not something that he really does that much.
Do you think, and it's not the perfect comp, but like
Mhm.
I look at it as from what I'm hearing, and I think about Karl Anthony Towns, like when he was out on the Timberwolves prior to getting Ant-Man out there. Is that a situation that may have to happen for Scotty, where it's like another true out, like a true alpha has to walk in the building, and Scotty will be comfortable as being that secondary guy, where Cat was next to Ant. Now Cat is obviously new team, not really somebody that's going to be like, this is my team coming to New York. Brunson's got the C on his chest.
Mm.
But is that something that may need to happen for Toronto, whereas like you want to retain this guy, this guy's very important to you, but he's probably just not going to be that guy, that number one guy that you all dreamed of him to be? Because that's kind of what Cat was out in Minnesota, right? First year, rookie season, they're like, oh, this is the guy that you draft. This is the guy that you build
Mm.
around. This is
Yeah, yeah.
exactly everything that you want. And then as years have progressed, he always needed somebody else, whether it be Jimmy Butler and Anthony Edwards, to come in the door. And then you really started to see the Timberwolves take it to that next step. Is that's kind of what I'm getting for Scotty at this point, from what you're telling me.
Like if I had to bet my life on it, like that's probably what I think will happen. But
Mm.
at the same time, like the Raptors this year, like trying to use the all the developmental resources, all the sort of available minutes to try to get him to become that next level. And like whether he gets there or not, that's fine. I mean, honestly, I'm like pretty happy with him as a player, regardless of sort of what he gets to that level. But obviously, team building wise, like it's gonna matter a lot whether or not he can be that scorer. But I mean, I do feel like the best version of the Raptors, like when they get back to the playoffs, if they get back to the playoffs, if they become a contender one day, like Scotty will be a big part of that. It's just that I think they'll need to bring in a score that's much better than Scotty at scoring.
Salute to Knicks Nation. Thank you all for tuning in for another game of the week preview. We are previewing the Knicks going up to Toronto to face the Raptors. With me on the other side is my guy Will Lou, covers the Toronto Raptors for his own pod. Hello and welcome. Make sure to go subscribe and check it out there. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. And look, gotta talk about my sponsor, our sponsor, I should say, Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code KFTV to get up to $1,000 in instant bonus cash. Guys, look, I love using Underdog Fantasy. Every time I'm watching the games, I like to go on the app and just, put a little money down, man. I think I know. I watch enough basketball. I think I should know what it is, okay? And so the cool thing about Underdog is that it's simple. All you got to do is create a ticket of 2 to maximum 8 players. The more players you choose, the more return you can get on your money. And all you got to do is just choose any statistical category, whether it be higher or lower, points, rebounds, assists, a combination of all three, whatever it may be to fit your fancy. That's all you got to do. And if you don't want to do that, you can also do some drafts. You can do some NBA drafts, put some players together, compete against some friends, put down some money, go get some lunch money, and get some bragging rights. All right. And if you don't like basketball, if you're not watching the NBA like that, the cool thing is that you got all other sports, NFL, MLB, NHL. They even got golf and soccer on there as well. So they give you many options to choose, and with all the same premise of just choosing higher or lower for any statistical category for every player. So make sure to support our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code KFTV to get up to $1,000 in instant bonus cash and a free pick. All right, well, let's get into the crux of the show. Let's get into the matchup, man. This is going to be fun. I'm looking forward just because it's like you get to see the old guys, Precious, OG, get to go back to Toronto. I wish Quick was playing because it would have been nice just to see what was happened. But nonetheless, we still get RJ looking at his old team. And I guess the only player that he would remember from this team is Brunson and Mitch. Brunson and Mitch. I think that's it at this point. And Jericho. Actually, no. It'd be Jericho, Mitch, Brunson. I'm trying to think of who else. Like the entire starting lineup has changed. Josh, I guess, as well. But it's I'm just trying to think because someone did the whole picture of the starting rotation at the beginning of the season. And it was like last year you started off with Brunson, Grimes, RJ, Julius, Isaiah Hartenstein, and then they did the jersey swaps, and then Grimes is in Dallas, RJ in Toronto, Randall out in Minnesota, and then Hartenstein in OKC. So I'm just like I'm just working through my head like who's he going to remember from this team that's still like consistent. And it goes the same way for like OG. Like you have Scottie over there, and Precious, you got to have Scottie over there. I guess Pirtle as well, but it's like a little bit of a homecoming for these guys. So going with the key stats, right? We'll get the Raptors, man. You talk about them like to get outscored. They certainly like to do that. They know how to score in the paint as well. They're really good. Like if you look at some of these things of like what they do for a young team, second chance opportunities, fast break points, points in the paint, they are up there with like competing wise, right? The issue is that the Knicks are good on the other end at stopping all of these things. And so whether it be second chance points, fast break points, points in the paint, Raptors typically in the top 10 for all those categories. Knicks also in the top 10 defensively. This is where all this is going to just be breaking out, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the key to taking away the Raptors right now. It's like, can you protect the rim? Because like the Raptors will kind of relentlessly go there. And then can you take away their fast breaks? And like honestly, taking away the fast breaks is like it depends on sort of just I guess your floor balance and things like that. A lot of that's like dependent on how good you guys are on offense. Knicks are great on offense, so like I actually don't think that you guys will have that many issues on guarding fast breaks. But basically, yeah, the Raptors love going to the basket. That's like RJ's like the primary thing that he does. So if you take away RJ's ability to go to the basket, if you take away the role to Jakob Poeltl, which I know that sounds a little crazy, but Jakob's actually been really good for the Raptors this year. Then you have a really good shot because the Raptors, they're not a high volume 3-point shooting team. They're not like they're not really following the league trends. Like I think they're like bottom 2 right now in attempts per game from deep. So they're not gonna kill you really from 3 on an average night at least.
Yeah, and look, if that kind of goes to the Knicks' favor, and we saw that against the Magic recently, is that if you're not going to shoot a lot of threes and you're predicated on working in the paint, Knicks are very comfortable doing that because they can shoot the three, and they're going to test your athleticism to see if you can go out and guard the three. And when I look at the Raptors, like they're not necessarily the most highly athletic team out there. It's not like watching like the Rockets or anything of that nature.
Yeah, sure.
And so I think this is going to be a good matchup leaning in the Knicks' way because they can stop all these things that the Raptors want to do. Also, they're a young team. I mean, a lot of these aspects of what the Raptors are trying to do just predicate to what the Knicks are strong at best, especially when you have a Tom Thibodeau-led team. Protect the paint at all costs. If you're not going to shoot the three ball that well, we're fine at that. If the Raptors did shoot the three ball well, I'd be highly concerned. Then it's a true game. Absolutely. And hey, any team could just walk into like a hot 3-point shooting night any given night, right? And as I saw last night against Detroit, I'm like, yo, can we just like I'm having like I'm just getting aggravated watching Timmy knock down threes. I'm like, bro, like this guy walking to MSG, be like, ah, yeah, I'm home. I got this. You guys drafted me, traded me twice. Craziness.
Getting
Absolute
traded
craziness.
twice by the same team is hilarious, man.
Yo, like how
Take
many
a
times?
hit.
What was even crazier is that I think it was like when I think there was like even conversation of like trying to bring it back. I'm like, no, we're not.
What?
We're not like this is like before like we even got Brunson one. I'm like, no, we're not bringing the guy we just traded
Mhm.
twice. Why would it? Why would he even want to do that, man? He would probably be like, absolutely not. You're not trading me to the
Yeah, my
same
number
team
one
that
Tim Hardaway Nick memory is him getting cooked by Kyrie in the rookie game. But they were
dude.
going back and forth for a while, but then he got cooked.
Yeah, going back and forth. Yeah, this is the issue with Timmy. He could put up 30 like when he was on this
Sure,
team,
yeah,
and then the other guy was putting up 50. And you're like, all right, so you're a negative every
yeah.
single night. Dude could have 20. Other is whoever's
Mhm.
assignment was, take the over all the time, guaranteed. If Timmy's guarding you. But yeah, man, 3-point shooting. Knicks are one of the more efficient 3-point shooting teams. What would you say about the Toronto Raptors defensively for as a 3-point shooting team? Do you think they will give up too many threes or what?
Uh, honestly, I think the Raptors defensively sometimes are okay, and then they just completely fall apart. A lot of
Mm.
that stems from their bad transition defense. Like, yeah, I mean, like even the Mavericks, for example, that game's like the Raptors just lost to the Mavs. Like, even after made baskets, the Mavs are still getting out like transition layups off of those. So I think the Raptors, as a young team, they got to figure out the floor balance. I think generally speaking, like they do a good job of like helping each other, I guess. Like maybe their one-on-one stoppers aren't necessarily like great. I mean, basically their best on-ball defenders like Davion Mitchell, who comes off the bench. So we probably actually see a lot of him just trying to contend with Brunson and try to like at least somewhat limit what he does. The thing is, he's not going to give you that much offensively, so it's not going to be a fair fight. Um, and then yeah, I mean, you know, they're not a very good defensive team, actually. What am I saying? Yeah, they're gonna foul you guys a lot too. Yeah, Knicks are gonna score like 120 plus. Like I don't think that's gonna be much of a concern. But
Hey,
yeah, I mean, I guess if Cat's available, then I really don't like the Raps in this one. But if he's not available, then I do feel like the Raps can at least make it. The Raps are actually pretty competitive at home, generally speaking. They haven't competed with OKC and Dallas, but those are elite teams. But we'll see. You know what I mean? If you beat the Raptors badly at home, you're pretty much an elite team.
yeah, and look, if there's no cat, I expect this game to be very close. I think it's much closer than I would expect. If Cat's in there, that just
I mean,
changes everything.
yeah.
He's just like offensively, he's just so lethal. It's just tough to like cover him, and we see that. I saw that last night. See that this season, like in the two games that we've missed without him. It's like it's pretty obvious what he provides his team. Um, but like looking at like the rest of this game, man, I think it's just gonna come down to are the Raptors gonna have a good 3-point shooting night and can you stop? If he has had quickly, because I know Grady Dick
Sure.
is just
Yeah.
like knocking shots down, I'd be a little bit more
Bro,
concerned.
Grady took 14 threes the other game, man.
That
He's hunting. He's coming, I'm telling you.
look, but it's like one thing to have one guy knocking down threes. It's when you have
Yeah,
multiple guys
for
knocking down
sure.
threes. Because
Yeah.
like if you have quickly, who I know could be like he can hover very well, close to 38% as a 3-point shooter. If you have Grady Dick, who's been on a heater as of late, knocking
Mhm.
down threes, then we start to get into a problem category because RJ could have a night where he's just knocking down threes and same thing with Scottie. And so then it's like, okay, this is going to be a game. No
Yeah.
quickly though, it changes everything for this matchup. But the biggest matchup though I'm looking at in this one is OG versus Scottie Barnes, man. I just feel
Okay.
like, you know, these guys played with each other on the same team. This is my key matchup of tonight. OG has just been a solid two-way force for the Knicks, man. You know, defensively, we already know what he could do. He can guard
Mhm.
anyone, 1 through 4, easily, fives on some nights,
Yep.
even if it's like, you know, as you mentioned, Jokic. We saw that with Embiid. So I'm expecting him to get the Scotty assignment just because Bridges has been an up and down defender. Bridges hasn't been a guy that will be in your face. OG
Mhm.
will get in your face and make it uncomfortable for you to get to your spots. And then Scotty, he's another guy who could be a good two-way force, man. So I would expect him to probably get, I don't know if he's like, he might get the Brunson assignment, honestly, unless you put Davion Mitchell out there and then you leave him out, Brunson. But I don't know. I feel like, who do
Yeah.
you think Scotty's going to take?
Scotty, I mean, if Cat's available, I think he probably takes Cat.
Hmm.
But that's gonna exhaust him a lot and maybe even pick up a couple of fouls. But like, I
Even with
mean,
Pirtle out there, you don't even want Pirtle. Like I know, like
the thing with Pirtle is like it's great when he can like play against Jericho Sims or whatever, because it's just like then he could just purely help and help off and all that kind of stuff, and that really benefits the Raptors a lot because a lot of the other guys need help because they do get beat a lot from the perimeter. But yeah, those types of one-on-one scores, like for example, like when the Raptors played Minnesota twice, like I thought Jakob really struggled to guard like Randall one-on-one, and it's like, yeah, okay, the cat's like he's way better than Randall. So it's like, um, yeah, I think for me, probably you probably put Scottie on there. Maybe later in the second halves, you can like switch some of those pick and rolls and stuff like that, give you more switchability. Um, but yeah, I mean, matchup wise right now, it's really awkward for the Raptors because they don't really have like a natural shutdown guy in the starting lineup. You probably see Ochai Agbaji try to guard, Randall or not Randall, Brunson. It's like that might work, but it's probably not going to work. I mean, he does a good job of being responsible and staying in front, but ultimately, like I feel like Brunson's game is like really hard for a guy like that to cope with, especially having to fight through a bunch of screens. Yeah, matchup wise, like the Raptors always kind of have to hide Grady on somebody. So it might be Josh Hart, it might be even honestly, and like no defense to Bridges, they might even hide him on Bridges. It's not like he's like so bad where like he's like falling asleep on defense and stuff like that. But obviously it's like a lot of the NBA they love like finding the white guy and they're like, all right, let's go attack him. So I feel like Grady gets a lot of that treatment. It's basically the Steve Novak treatment from back in the day. But
Oh, good lord.
yeah, so we'll see a bit of that. Probably RJ, you kind of hide him just a little bit as well. Maybe put him on Hart, but then Hart's also really good in transition. Like there's a lot of matchup problems across the board for the Raps. Like I'm not gonna lie, like I really do think the Knicks are gonna have a really easy time scoring the ball against Toronto. But yeah, honestly, it's even hard to predict just because the Raptors' lineup has been pretty in flux right now, and they don't have natural defenders right now.
And look, that's also like the struggle of like a young team. Like
Yeah, of
watched it
course.
for
Yeah.
so many years. Like defensively is where you want them to be, like where you need to make your mainstay in order to compete. And just when you have a young team that's also limited offensively and what they can do,
Mhm.
it's just a recipe for a tough night. Um, but getting back to the OG and Scotty matchup,
Sure.
because I do think that it like I know that OG will have that assignment. I just kind of feel like that's the way you want to go because like if you're gonna then you gotta take Pirtle off, right? Like if you just put Scotty somewhere, I feel like that's gonna be just the battle for most of the night. Because OG, honestly, man, like
Yeah. What's up?
he's going to be roaming, he's going to be cutting, and I
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
like if you're going to disrupt what OG does best offensively,
Mm-hmm.
is to put another guy just like him with wingspan and he could guard. And I feel like
Yeah.
he's going to get that. I think that should be the matchup. And I'm just looking forward to seeing how that even shakes out, especially since they both know each other's tendencies. They both were
Right.
on the same team for so long. I feel like that's just like the primo matchup to go with if you're the
Mm.
Raptors.
But I also from the Knicks side though, like I could see like let's say RJ's going off early in the game. It's like I could see the Knicks switching OG onto RJ because like I mentioned, like Raptors are 5-2 when RJ scores 29 or more, but they're 2-15 when he doesn't go for 29, or you know what I mean. So I think OG is like a pretty ideal defender to sort of throw against a guy like RJ, and like it'd be one thing if the rest of the team can sort of step up and create more offense, but there isn't necessarily that level with the other guys. Maybe sometimes like well, that's not true. Scotty can sometimes do it, but like I still ultimately think towards the end of the game, if especially if it's close, I think OG will be on RJ.
Okay. Now
Yeah.
let me get you to the last question, and then get you out of here. Will X Factor for tonight's game?
Hmm.
Since you're the guest, who you got for the X Factor?
I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I think it's Jakob Poeltl. I know Jakob Poeltl's not a sexy name
You were
around
gonna,
the
I thought you were
NBA.
gonna say RJ, man, after the way you started the show.
No. Look, RJ, I think he's a little too good for Toronto to be the X factor. Like you know what I mean? Like
Okay.
he has to be the main factor. It'd be like saying like Cat's the X factor. Like he's not an X factor, man. He's like
Okay.
your second option right now. Nah, it's Jakob. When Jakob's not in foul trouble, the Raptors actually play really really good basketball around him. Like he's so important for them as like a hub on offense. He's like basically their only like good screener to create separation. Defensively, he's a great rebounder. I think he's still number one in the NBA in offensive rebounds as well. You'll see him. He's like weirdly aggressive now on these sort of drives where he'll get the ball in the post. He'll try to distribute, but if the option isn't there, he'll take it strong to the basket. He's got
Hmm.
a great floater. He honestly kills teams with floaters. He's actually just played like a really, really great season for the Raptors. And yeah, I mean, as long as it's not too confusing with Cat out there, if he's out there, I think Jakob actually will have a really good game. I mean, it's basically the teams that have shut down Jakob are teams with really big centers, and the Knicks right now just don't have that option. So I need Yak to really do well tonight to sort of even out what what New York's gonna be throwing at them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's your X factor. I've been going
Surprise.
with very interesting. You threw me off. You threw out the red herring early in the show, and I really appreciate that. I like the twist at the end.
Yeah.
It feels like a Shyamalan movie, like Signs. I'm gonna go with because I see there's I can always go with Bridges because like I just want him to like show up and do stuff. But I'm gonna go with Josh Hart, man. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go with Josh Hart again, X Factor, just because you need him to do everything. And he got thrown out for getting 2 techs last game. I think he's gonna come back with a vengeance, just for not liking that. But
Mhm.
then when you think about needing playmaking, he's there for it to help Brunson, rebounding there to help Cat, and then scoring wise, he's just been there to help everybody. And I'm going to go with him as the X factor yet again. I could go Bridges just because he's been up and down, but he's had,
Yeah.
2 solid games back to back. So I'll leave him alone, see if he can get going. But Josh Hart, I just feel like with the way that this team is just mounted up with wingspan and stuff of that nature, I feel like
Yeah.
if this is going to be a game, it's going to be a moment for Josh Hart to come through and just show off what type of impact he can make on a night to night basis. And that's just being Mr. Do Everything. That's just who he is. So that's my X factor for the game. Will, I appreciate you for coming through as always. Know I gotta get you out of here. Please let the listeners know where they can find you. If you got any work up and coming, we should be on the lookout for.
Yeah, man. Go listen to the Hello and Welcome podcast, #1 basketball podcast in Canada. Not even trying to brag, but Raptor-wise, like this is the place you got to go to. Otherwise you can follow me on Twitter at William_Luke. But just go listen to the pod, man. I think what you guys do is you guys do a really good job engaging with the community. Going live, having that sort of debate back and forth with fans, bringing on entertaining personalities, not trying to bore you with like a million stats or like here's a play breakdown of like horns or some shit. Like it's just not. It's not like that. It's more conversational. It's more like on the level and like I've been doing this for a really long time and this is the first time I got independent. So I've got a lot of support from the community. But if you ever want to wrap the podcast, it's Hello and Welcome.
Salute to you, man. Appreciate the kind words. And go support Will Lou, man. He does a great job covering the Raptors. I'm always tapping into, man. It's just engaging and how he just works with the community. It's a big community out in Toronto, man.
It is.
And it's like they're just as basketball frenzy as they are in New York. So it's always fun watching what you do, man. But appreciate you for coming through as always. And to Knicks Nation, thank you once again for tapping for another Game of the Week preview. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button for your boys. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Make sure to support our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code KFTV to get up to $1,000 in instant bonus cash and a free pick. And look, if you can't find the show on YouTube, we're on all audio listening platforms: Apple, Spotify, Google Play, Amazon, Alexa, Stitcher, you name it. We are there. And make sure to subscribe to the newsletter. All right, everybody. We'll catch you later. We out.